Something, it's always my fault, right?
In the green, first round of the trip, I'll take it. Alright, I'm here at Bally's about to play the 2-5, 1000 max, no limit hold'em. Let's win some pots. In one of my very first hands I played, the hijack raises to $20. I look down at pocket nines and the big blind and I decide to flat, so we head to a flop heads up. The flop is king 10-3 with 2 spades. I check, he bets $25, and I'm not going to fold just yet. I make the call, we head to a turn card, which is the jack of spades. I check and he checks. The river is a 6 of spades, so now we have a 9 high flush. I check, hoping to get the showdown, and he checks as well. We flip over our hand, and we win our first pot here at the World Series of Poker. So as I said earlier, this table was pretty dead, not a lot going on, and unfortunately just a pretty uneventful table and session, so this was one of the last significant hands I played for the night. Folds around to the button and he raises to $20. I look down at ace queen offsuit in the big blind. I can flat or 3-bet here, but button against big blind, 3-betting here is really good, so I'm gonna raise, and since I'm out of position, I'm gonna pick a little bit of a bigger sizing. I'm gonna make it about 5x, so I raise to $105. The button makes the call, so we're gonna go heads up to a flop. The flop is pretty awesome for our hand. It comes queen 6-3 rainbow. On a queen high disconnected board, obviously my hand is at the top of my range. Initially I thought I should be down betting, but I forgot what I learned in my lessons with my poker coach. Really, you should be down betting on king high disconnected board, so on queen high, I think I should have bet a little bit bigger, but I'm learning, and in this case, I decided to bet $75, but it should have made it about 100, 120, maybe even 150, somewhere in that range. Giving my opponent a good price here. He's going to peel with a lot of hands, suited backdoor hands, maybe some Broadway hands like Jack 10, and all of his pocket pairs are going to continue. So he makes the call and we head to a turn card, which is the 5 of diamonds. I decide on a bet size of $150. My opponent tanks for quite a while and then decides on the fold. So this was the biggest pot I played for the night, and ironically one of the last ones, as the table was dead and I was ready to get up, get some sleep, and get ready for some World Series of Poker adventures for the week. Alright guys, well I jumped in the 2-5 1000 max and finally won a pot. This table could not be more dead. Honestly, thinking about getting up, I'm really tired. So unfortunately, not a lot of hands for the vlog, but on a positive note, fingers crossed, hopefully we'll book a nice little solid win here before I rack up. But I need to get some rest for tomorrow because we have some tournaments to play. Let's play a few more minutes and then call it a day. You're in for 1,000, cashed out with 1168 for a profit of $168. So in the green, first round of the trip, I'll take it. We'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, I am here channeling my inner Antonini. I am at the Bellagio Sportsbook. This is only my second time playing poker at the Bellagio. My first time was quite the experience. It was almost 8 years ago, playing 1-2 here and playing with probably the only money in my bankroll I had at the time, and man, we've come a long way since then. So excited to play Bellagio and gonna jump in the 2-5, 500 max buy-in, no limit hold'em game. And you guys know the drill. Let's win some pots. After folding for what felt like forever, I finally got to play my very first hand. Folds around to me on the button and I look down at the beautiful 10-8 offsuit. Just kidding. This is a very cuspy hand, but I haven't played a hand, so it's time to raise it up and hopefully pick up a pot. I raised to $15 and the big blind calls. We go heads up to a flop of ace king high. He checks, I bet, he snap folds, and we finally pick up a pot here at Bellagio. In this hand, I raise the hijack with King 10 offsuit, small blind, and the big blind call, so we go 3 ways to a flop of 7-6 deuce rainbow. They check it over to me, and with this exact hand, it's kind of at the bottom of my range in the sense that I don't really have any draws, I don't have ace high which has showdown, so king high just falls kind of at the bottom. So in my mind, this was a good enough reason to start betting and planning to blast off on good turns and rivers. So I bet $20. The small blind snap folds, and the big blind, who's been playing very tight, she check raises and I snap fold. So unfortunately we don't get away with that one. In this hand, I get involved with the 2 loosest and weirdest players at the table. They were doing some very unconventional things, and it left me in a very tough spot. Early position opens to $15, the button calls, and I look down at ace 10 offsuit in the big blind, so I peel and we go 3 ways to a flop of 8-6-5 rainbow. Not much going on for me on this flop, so I check. The original razor checks and the button checks back as well, so we're headed to a turn card, which is an ace, so now I'm really liking my hand. I decide to check it over to the preflop aggressor. He puts out a bet of $20, and then the button decides to raise to $45. Now I'm very confused, and these multi-way spots with hands exactly kind of like I have are putting me in some tough spots. I'm not sure how many nutted hands the original razor can have, but I think the button here has the advantage. He can have all the suited 2-pair ace-x combinations, 2 pairs on the flop, sets. However, it was a little bit weird to me because he didn't bet the flop when it checked to him, so I wasn't sure, and I put in the fold. And after seeing the hand play out, the button had a worse ace than me, so kind of bummed that I decided to fold there and see the bad news, but it gave me a better idea on how the table was playing, so now I can use that to my advantage on future hands. In this hand, it folds to me in the cutoff, and I have jack 10 offsuit. I raise to $15. The button and the small blind call, so we go 3 ways to a flop of queen 7-5 rainbow. The small blind checks, and now it's on me. Being out of position here against 2 opponents, these players are way too sticky for me to start barreling with jack high, so I put in the check. We head to a turn, which is the 10 of hearts. The small blind decides to lead for $20. I make a pair, so I make the call, and the button calls as well. We head to a river card 3 ways, which is the king of hearts. The small blind checks, I check hoping to get to showdown, but unfortunately the button puts out a bet of $100. The small blind folds, and now really smells like king 10, possibly backed into a straight. Either way, there's way too many hands that I lose to, and I don't feel like hero calling in the spot, so I put in the fold, and unfortunately, our chips are headed in the wrong direction. In this hand, I find myself in another awkward multi-way spot where there's a raise under the gun to $15. I look down at pocket jacks in middle position, and I 3-bet to $45. The cutoff and the button cold call, the original razor fold, so we go 3 ways to a flop of ace 9-3 with 2 clubs. In a heads up situation, I would be range betting this board, but multi-way, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do. Although it's certainly possible someone can have an ace-x combination here, I'm still going to continue firing and see if I can't thin the field. I put out a bet of $50. Only the button calls, so we go heads up to a turn card, which is the 8 of diamonds. I check, and luckily he checks back. The river is the 5 of diamonds. Now I just feel a bit awkward in this spot, and I decided to go for a block bet of $45. He'll have a hard time raising with a lot of hands, as I can still have a very strong hand here, and if he puts in a raise, I can just make the fold, so I decided on a bet size of $45. He thinks for a little bit and then decides to put in a raise to $180. I fold pretty quickly, kind of a weird spot, but we lose yet another hand here.
Alright, off to a pretty frustrating start. A little steamy right now. Just every hand I'm getting into, I'm just making the wrong folds or getting in a weird spot. And then, of course, pocket jacks to ace 9, super annoying. Just can't win a hand, but I'm going to keep grinding top up. This table is very soft, and it's a good table. I'm glad I moved off the first table I was on. It was very reg heavy and just like kind of pro heavy, so this one is a lot softer. So see if we can spin this up and get in the green today, because that would be really nice.
So after taking a little break, getting some food in me, I'm definitely feeling a little bit better, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't a bit frustrated in this session, but we're going to continue playing and try to win some pots. In this hand, I raise Queen 8 of clubs and the cutoff to $15, the button and the small blind call, so we go 3 ways to a flop of 6 deuce 9 rainbow. The flop checks around, the turn brings the 5 of clubs. The small blind leads for $20. He can't really have a very strong hand here. I pick up a gutter, and I was the initial pre-flop raiser. I don't know, I'm sick of losing pots, so let's raise this one up. I make it $60 to go. They both snap fold, so it looks like we're going to have to get into the bluffing streets to win some hands here at the Bellagio. In this hand, there's an under the gun straddle to $10. The cutoff raises to $30. I'm on the button and look down at pocket sixes. I make the call. The big blind and the straddle call as well, so we're going 4 ways to a flop. The flop is King 8-5 with 2 diamonds. Not a great flop for my hand, but we do have the button. The flop checks around. The turn is another 5. The big blind, who loves to stab at pots when they're checked around on the flop, I've seen him do it multiple times throughout this session, he bets $40. The others fold. I'm not quite a believer just yet, so I put in the call planning to bluff on a diamond river or show down my hand hoping that it's good. The river is a diamond, it's the 10 of diamonds. He checks. I've been so tight this whole session, I think I can get this one through, so I put out a bet of $120. He pretty much snap folds, so it looks like we're going to have to keep bluffing if we want to win pots here at the Bellagio today. Alright, this hand was a doozy. The button raises to $25 and I look down at pocket 10s in the small blind. I feel like this should be the best hand a ton of the time and I want to raise for value. Being out of position here, I want to raise a little bit bigger, so I make it $125. He makes the call, and in this hand we're 500 effective, so now the pot is $250 heading to the flop and SPR is now about 2 to 1. The flop is 8-3-4 rainbow. Pretty dry board and great for my hand. I don't need to bet pretty big here, so I put out a bet of $100. My opponent makes the call, so we head to a turn card, and now SPR is very shallow. The turn is a pretty great card, it's another 4. So now I don't think I have very big of a decision. I think with my stack size, the pot, and my hand that wants to deny equity against hands like ace king or ace queen, I decide to go all in. My opponent tanks for so long, probably at least 2 or 3 minutes, before finally putting in the call. When he called, I felt like I was behind, but I wasn't sure what I was losing to, but he flips over pocket queens, so we totally value owned ourselves there. I had a pocket pair and it looked like aces because I had been so card dead and having a pretty bad session, but either way, I don't think I would play this hand much differently. I think shoving the turn there denies equity from all of his ace queen, ace king type hands, and just a little bit unfortunate we ran into it there. So now we are stuck piles in this game, and let's hope that we can turn this around. In this hand, the cutoff raises to $15. I look down at ace king suited on the button and I raise to $45. The small blind and the big blind cold call, the original raiser folds, so we're going 3 ways to a flop and a 3-bet pot. I was getting a massage during this hand, so I didn't record the very beginning, but I do know that we flopped the absolute nut flush. The small blind decides to lead the flop for $75. The big blind folds, and now it's on me. There's absolutely no reason for me to raise here, keep all worse hands in, and we have position, so I make the call and we head to a turn card. The turn is a very insignificant card, it's the 10 of clubs. My opponent doesn't have much left in his stack, but he does decide to bet $150. Nothing much to do here now except go all in and hope to get called by a set, a worse flush, or maybe possibly an overpair. So when I go all in, I knew he was going to call just based on how much he had left in his stack. He puts in the chips to call. We see the river, which is a blank, and he flips over pocket kings. No good, sir. I have the nut flush, and now we scoop a monster pot and finally get very close to a double up and picking up some steam. In one of my very last hands I played for the session, I raise ace jack suited from under the gun to $15. I pick up a caller in middle position and the big blind calls, so we're going 3 ways to a flop of Jack 4 9 rainbow. Pretty sweet flop for my hand. They check it over to me. I bet $25 given that there's some gut shots available on this board, some straight draws, and of course we can get called by some pairs. Only the big blind calls, so we go heads up to a turn, which is the deuce of clubs bringing in a backdoor club draw. He checks, I bet $50, he makes the call. The river is an offsuit 5, so no flushes available. He checks it over to me and I want to go for value. I have top pair, top kicker here on a board that I should have the best hand a ton of the time. I bet 105 and he tanked for quite a while and then finally put in the call, and now we are almost unstuck after being down piles.
So I apologize on the delay for the vlogs, guys. I've been here grinding, just trying to focus and play the best poker I can, so I don't like to be on my phone a lot and trying to find a balance between vlogging and playing poker. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the vlog, would you do me a huge favor and go all in and like, comment, and subscribe? It would mean the world. Remember, we're just getting started and it's only up from here. I'll see you guys next time.